Good morning, everyone, and it says I am live, so I must be. Okay, present, share screen. Okay, and for those of you that get my notes in different versions or even on X, I'll get around to that later. I was experimenting with some new formatting stuff, whatever, and so that took a little longer than usual. Okay, so quick recap of what's going on here. Reminder about yesterday. Where's yesterday? Okay. Yeah, yesterday we kind of opened up above that 65, 70 area, wherever it was here. And we just had that mechanical bid grind higher. We had that big area at 6,300, the round number, and we had huge customer short dealer long gamma right up here at 63.10, and there was also something at 63.15. There was also something at 63.10. It kind of sucked us up, but then, as we went above, they sold. As we went down, it went below. Then once we kind of, at the end of the day, we kind of broke below, and the charm pushed us right below the 6,300 level to close at like at 97, whatever it was. Okay, so let me just pull up my notes so I can sort of follow along with a semi-organized manner. Okay, so as I'm kind of finding that, let me mention a few things that I noticed. So I don't know how many of you saw the Fed Governor Waller comments, 3 reasons why the Fed should cut rates basically at the next FOMC, which, I don't see a huge bullish reaction from it, but let's just keep our eyes on the macro bro stuff. If you look at TNX, the 10-year is dropped. The dollar has come in a little bit. So again, I always say I'm a macro tourist. I'm not a macro bro, but these macro themes seem to be coming in a little bit more. And as we unclench from the large expiry, the monthly options expiration, that might just give us more room to move around the cabin, and that stuff might carry a little more weight. Also, in the I just happened to notice column, there was something I read on X. I didn't investigate it much, but apparently Japan elections are coming up, and the party that's, I guess we could call more fiscally responsible or whatever, seems to be favored in the polls or something, which caused the Japan bond, a bid for the Japan bond, kind of easing some of the tension on that carry trade stuff. Is that still a thing or not? I'm not sure. So just keep an eye on that and consult your local macro bro for more details. Okay. So as we know, SPX and QQQ hit new all-time highs yesterday. Oh, yeah, here's the Waller statement. Fed shouldn't delay action until labor market shows significant strain. So now we have the AM expiration coming up now. Good morning, Gamma Edge. OMG. Hello, hello, hello. That is very cool. We'll talk. my buddies. Um, anyway, that caught me by surprise, a pleasant surprise. Not sure which of the Gamma Edge representatives it is, but we'll find out. I actually have a Paul Duncan quote in my note. I don't know if it ended up. I have a I have a "Don't torture the data" mention, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, so where was I before I got distracted by that pleasant surprise? So we have the AM expiry and the PM expiry. So broadly, and we'll get to it in a minute, the AM expiry looks like it's kind of going to be hedged out. It's kind of not going to be a big thing going into the open. We had whatever 830 numbers. I don't really know what they are. It's none of my business. The market seems to not care. Okay, housing starts, building permits, whatever. Um, yeah, I did notice the tweet, and yeah, I've seen that discussion. I've seen that discussion. And I'll probably comment on that a little bit more in my weekend note. I'll probably comment on a little bit more on my weekend note. But from my quick cursory view, August, at least looking forward into the end of July into August, doesn't look to me quite like the disaster that August often looks like. That said, that's unofficial comment. Okay, so we had that. We had Netflix earnings. I don't even have Netflix on my screen anymore. I don't really watch that one on my like little thumbnail. So to whatever extent that has a weight in the Qs that spills over into the SPX, it's got something to keep our eye on. So we have a muted expected move for today, 26, 27 points, call it 30-ish points from like the close yesterday, which was around here. So putting us kind of up in the 25, 30 area, round numbers, and down near the 75, 70, 65 area. 65 has been an area of interest for a lot of the week, either above it, below it, or pins near it. So just kind of put a little asterisk, mental asterisk on it. I'm going to skip some of that stuff. Now let's go to look at the data, and then I'm going to pull up some Gamma Edge stuff, and maybe they can maybe someone from Gamma Edge would like to comment. Next time I'll send you something to join the actual screen if you want to, the actual stage, so you can talk. And I'd like to extend an invitation again. I chatted with Paul Duncan, the kind of founder, and I consider a mentor in the Gamma space, an invitation to do something, some kind of event on YouTube or whatever, to do something. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. That said, don't get pissed off, but we're going to get to options depth right now. But Gamma Edge is great. As you can see, if you look up here, I have options depth. I have Gamma Edge here somewhere. I use that for the VIX a lot. I got everybody. I'm an equal opportunity tool user. Okay, so that said, here's the PM expiry. Let's forget AM got hedged out, whatever. And so here's what I'm looking at. 6,300 market maker, long customer short, sticky zone. And so the way I like to look at this is we have this broad zone here, 6,300 to 6,350. But calling the job zone, we'll get to the job zone in a minute. So let's just pretend we're over here because we are. So if we here, we have the potential for supportive action as we come down, but then as we go up, dealers have to kind of buy some of that, some of the buyback. But then, and we have this kind of bouncy zone. But here's where I get my top of the chop zone. If we can stay above this 6290 area, because then we got the 631015 area, market maker short, market maker long, flyish looking thing here. So kind of grinding toward here. I'm ending my chop zone arbitrarily here. Right up here is around the 20 something delta call, top of the expected move. So, we could say that that's the chop zone. But I'm just thinking that we're going to see a reaction before that. And if we can continue past here, past this market maker long area, then we kind of enter this new zone up here, top of the chop zone. If, however, the 6,300 and we end up below it, which is not crazy, and we're down at the 6,290, then we have suppressive flows as we go up, market makers selling, but supportive as we go down because then they have to buy back. So we get this sticky kind of action in here, and we have this whole cluster down here. Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that because it's interesting. Now, we got this little 85 that I called the pivot. We got this little long thing. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of contracts, but it's just a little blemish in the structure. So I kind of want to make note of that. And then we kind of stall down to 70. Now here's where we get to don't torture the data. One of the great lines of all time from Paul Duncan. Don't torture the data. If we break below this and can't reclaim this and kind of come down to 60, whatever, I'm not saying that's going to happen. This is if-then, conditional. If we break down, and these aren't big values compared to some of the other thing, but for the sake of completeness, there's really nothing in the structure. I'm not saying TA, flows, macro news, PE ratios, any of that stuff. There's nothing in the structure to indicate much of anything that's supportive other than down to this 6250 inflection area. Round number, whatever. Not saying it's going to happen, but you got to make that mental asterisk. And if below that, there's really nothing supportive just in this structure. Now, again, these are small values till down here. So don't torture the data. It is what it is on the daily. And then once we get down here, the 2030, which has been kind of our rescue zone all week, we undercut the 3520s. Some of us, me, guilty as charged, sold puts around here on that day where we undercut 6,200 to down to 6,200 and then zoomed back up on that firing, what's his name, news. I actually kept the faith and added to it, but that's me. I wouldn't divide this at home. I expected that V reversal, and Trump came to save the day. Once he came to save the day, it was all clear. Okay, what else do we got going on? All right, so looking at the heat map. Now, the heat map takes all expiries into consideration, not just the 0 DTE. And so here we are in the AM. Magnet is right here to 6,300, no shocker. And so we're probably going to hedge out right near here, give or take a few points. The PM, we have this light red coloration, which means it's kind of really mixed gamma, long, shorts throughout the whole structure, not in the 0 DTE. And so it just, to me, says we could have a choppier action than we've been seeing lately. And so So let's just go over here so we can kind of see that a little more cleanly. And so 6260, that's kind of a path of least resistance. Should we get down there below the chop zone? So we could stall out in here. So it's a little messy looking today. We'll look at charm in a minute. I want to point out something else, and let's go here for that. Whoops. Let me remove myself from the stage for a second so I don't type my password in for the entire world to see. Not that I don't trust people, but you know. Oh, great, I typed it wrong. You know me and typos. We could be here for about another 20 minutes. There we go. Wow, I got it on the second try. That's pretty impressive. Okay. And I'm going to put some people on the stage if they want to comment. Okay, here we go. So I want to show you the NDX. Oh, and I sold this call spread yesterday. They haven't taken it to the AM, so I don't think I'm going to get my head chopped off, but I got like $1.80 for it or something. AM expiry. I know you normally do the AM expiries, but the IV was kind of the IV looked too high to me for that. So apparently it was right. But that said, let's go to, and then actually I'm going to pull up Gamma Edge too in a minute. And if Paul Duncan wants to comment or whoever the representative is, you type in the chat and I'll put it on the screen. I believe in cooperation, not competition. So they're going to be selling at the money calls from what they prospectus says. The YLD family of funds will be selling calls not only in NDX, they're going to be selling at the money calls in SPX and RUT, as well as in whatever other yield max NVIDIAs and all that kind of stuff. So there'll be those negative deltas coming in that when they come in, market maker is going to have to hedge. I'm sorry. That's just the way it bees. And so at 11 o'clock, they look at VWAP. See if they're going to look at VWAP on the NDX, on the NDX call they're selling. And they're going to try to sell it near VWAP. Obviously, if you're selling it, you want to get over VWAP. If you're buying it, you want to get under VWAP. I don't know how much they play that game. And the selling will start at 11:30-ish, I think, according to their prospectus, and usually goes on to 1:30 or 2. That tends to be suppressive. In theory, it's supposed to be. It tends to be. So I'm saying that to say this, that's likely coming. And so let's get back to over here. So if we're up here, top of the chop target zone up here around that 25 delta round number, if we get there and it's 11:30 Euro close time, it wouldn't shock me, and it might not shock you, to see us start to recede from wherever we are and maybe break below 6,300 if we're above it, maybe come down to the 90 area and maybe see some weakness. Factor that in, if then conditional. If then conditional. Now, we're going here again. Hey, trader, sign in. Come on. Having trouble signing in? No, I'm having trouble with my browser. Authorize, continue, whatever. Okay. I don't know what happened there. I know this is thrilling viewing. Discuss amongst yourselves. Why does it say non-member? There we are. Okay. So I particularly like looking at VIX, and I've had discussions with people about the VIX hedging thing. Okay. And I think most of you, if you've been following me, have know I've been talking about the VIX being buried, quote unquote, under puts or having calls that are attractants. And right now we're far away from this. Most of the deltas that came in, people buying VIX calls or buying VIX puts have been hedged out. So we can consider this hedged. It's out into August, so it's not going to have a big effect ish yet. If new deltas come in, if new buying comes in on VIX calls, and we watch VVIX, we watch whatever we watch to kind of confirm that. But I just want to highlight, and one of the cool things about Gamma Edge is I don't have to hunt. Right here we see where the biggest scratch on the table is. 191,000 puts buried under those puts, and 17 has been acting as an inflection. We had a similar setup um, in the July expiry. So note to yourself, 17 over under, watch for action. And if we get over this, then kind of the hedging starts to reverse a little. Now, again, remember, it's August, so it's not going to be as extreme as if it was next week. Heading up toward that 20-ish area where I'm just going to assume that these are customers buying calls, not selling calls. And then, however, the whole VIX, VX futures, SPX complex math goes, we get the down goes Fraser stuff. So I wanted to do that. Let's take a quick peek. Since I got Gamma Edge here, if you want to type something in the chat, anything that you think people should know, I totally respect. Actually, my whole if-then daily plan format was kind of inspired by Paul Duncan and Gamma Edge. I used to just do my own lame half-ass version of it, mostly in my head. And then he kind of was doing it, and he sort of challenged us to write our own, or invited us to write our own. And I started doing it. At first, I followed his formatting until I developed something that worked for me for the way my brain works. Not everybody's brain is going to process information the same way or look at the same things in the same order. And so, anyway, that's where that came up. So, here's today's structure. Now, that's the AM and the PM put together. Okay, here we go. Shopping grind turns our drunken sailor range is 62.60 to 62.90, 62.60 to 62.90, which can be low exposure driven by intraday volume. Okay, he writes a good note. He writes a nice note. I learned from the best. He writes a good note. Um, and he can explain his drunken sailor if he wants. Now, let me look at the PM. So interestingly, or maybe not interestingly, looking at different um, representation of the data, we kind of come up with the same numbers. That's 6290. Below 6290, I have it grinding to 70. I'm a little nicer. He has it grinding to 60, which makes sense also. You know? And so That's 0 DTE, right? That's the PM, I'm guessing. And so there's that 95 inflection point, and COTMP, that's a whole nother thing. That's one of their special um, Gamma Edge exclusive ideas, and I'll have Paul on it, and he could talk about it. The landscape view, yikes. Whoa. Okay, hold on. Let me read it. Okay. All right, so he has the supportive features coming into 6280. He can talk about that when we get him on there. Okay, glad that you were here. Looking forward to doing something collaborative on online for everybody. Paul Duncan, ladies and gentlemen. Relationships are always one of cooperation, not competition for me with other people in the gamma world. Okay, 6,500, I don't think we have to worry about. We don't have to think about this. Okay, well, I didn't notice this, and that's the whole complex. That's the whole complex. I guess this must be a J.P. Morgan something or other. Okay, that's basically it. Wow, we have a couple more minutes. Anyone want to jump on the stage? Bad Hombre, David, anyone? Oh, wait. Duh, I almost forgot the fun part of our program. Now, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, I bought a little debit spread here as a, whatchamacallit, as a spec, so that's down a little bit. I'm not really worried about that. I didn't get to sell puts. Okay, yeah, I don't really have much here. And here I guess had my September play. 65.15, 65.20. Go figure, right? And that's actually a little green. And then call sold right above it like a condory looking thing. Just experimenting and messing around. Where do I get the daily levels? It should be in the Substack note that I sent out. It should be in the note, and the we'll do the housekeeping well when I'm finished with this, but it should be in the note. It should be in a number of places. Did you get the note? The email? That's where everything should be in detail. I think you mean 62.45 ish. Um, in theory, we could, but I really don't think so. I really don't think so. So let's take a look over here. Yeah, I figured that much. I really don't think so. I think worst case scenario is at 70, 65 is down here. So let's go with the wish trades. And I actually like your 45 level. Shows 30 cents, so you know me. I'm going to put it in for 45 cents and see if I can steal it. On top, I pre-bought this blocker, so to speak. We're not supposed to get over 50. I'm sorry. That just ain't going to happen. I'm willing to throw two in right here, right now, and then kind of add to it. And why do I say that ain't going to happen? Let's go back here. Let's go back here. That is a huge market maker long customer short bar, just like we had at 63, 10 or 15 yesterday. Huh. Do you want to go on the stage and talk about it, or is that the only comment? I mean, you want to say anything about that? Anyway, yes, you.
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was unmuted. Yeah, I mean, just from my quick glance at NQ futures, they are looking weak to me. Um, Keep in mind it is pre-market, but if there's a big diversion between the Qs and SPX, I probably wouldn't be you know, too liberal on in terms of my positioning to the upside.
that's a very good that's a very good point. And I kind of teased mentioning the Netflix earnings reaction, and to whatever extent that spills into the Qs, which then spills into the SPX, et cetera, et cetera. That's a
Yep.
good point. That's a very good point.
So just keep an eye on them once in a while. If you don't see the charts aligning too well, I'd either back off from being too bullish or just be a little bit more conservative on your targets.
And just to kind of along with that, let's just say hypothetically, as we kind of plan out the day, and I plan to have a time of the day cheat card in there somewhere. A subscriber mentioned that. I think that's a good idea. I haven't had time to work that out, between like 9 o'clock last night and 5 in the morning today, but we'll get to that too. Um, if we're below here, the 6,300, the 6,290, Paul Duncan's drunken sailor range, which is in here, whatever, whatever, and it's getting to 11, 11:30, and NDX call selling is going to come in, and you watch the volume on NDX, and you watch my Twitter feed. I always tweet that stuff out. And QQQ is looking weak. So if we're over here and it's 11 o'clock and we're kind of struggling to hold this and we're down here, I'm a front runner.
Same.
I would good kindred spirits, and that's why I got the name McGraw. When I was with my old TA mentors back in the day, they'd say, okay, if over here, if under there, look to go long, short, whatever. And they say, okay, the signal, whatever. And I say, no, I'm already in it. Quick draw McGraw. That's where the name comes from.
Oh, okay.
And it's stuck. It's stuck. So I'd probably, if we were here, I'd probably McGraw. It actually became a verb in that room. I'd probably McGraw like an 80 or even a 75 round number because people like to go there. If we were here, maybe
Yep.
a cheapie, maybe a debit spread because I'm a theta junkie also. So maybe a debit spread or something, or like a wide fly down here. I might even see, actually, I'll look right now, if I could front run a cheapie put, let's just say, look how cheap that is. If I can get that, move it down a little bit, even some, even something like this. If I can get that for 40 cents, I'm taking that, bro. I'm putting that in right now. Even 50 cents, I'll be a sport.
What's the
And
strike on
then
that?
it's a simple 10 wide, 85,
Yeah,
75, 65.
I like that
Yeah,
85 a lot. Yeah.
yeah. You could move it down here. Same difference for 40 cents, depending where you think we end up. But that looks good to me for 50 cents. If I get it filled there, I'll take it. If not,
Um,
I have it working, and I'll come back later and take a look.
One thing I want to say, just responding to Joel's message there,
Yeah,
is when you're bullish, there are instances where you do want it to come down in order for that if then to then play out to the upside. So just because Doc is wanting a small retracement doesn't necessarily mean he's a bearish. trader.
And I tend to be bullish, and I'm actually. I mean, everything looks bullish. The setup, whatever.
Yeah.
Getting back to getting back to this. If we're over here, this becomes a magnet because to the extent that we go up and they start selling, then we go down, they start buying again, and we got this feature up here. We could easily end up here. This would not shock me at all. 25-ish pin. What's making me somewhat bearish, so to speak, or cautious, let's call it, is the NDX call selling coming in. I've seen that smack a rally right in the face before. I've seen it. I've kind of lived it, like, oh crap, now what am I going to do with these put spreads? A lot of times they end up working, but you get through that fake pain, so I've learned to be a little cautious about that. But I agree, the overall structure does not look horrible at all. However, on the flip side again, OG Larry McMillan, writer of what was the Options Bible in the late 90s, early 2000s, he's still around tweeting and doing whatever he does, has his modified McMillan Bollinger Band, whatever it is, sell signal. Now, it's not a one-day sell signal. He's like saying, like, buy a September at the money, put spread, whatever it is. And he's also saying that everything else is bullish. So it's like one domino, and he's like very mechanical. So if he gets one signal, he'll take that trade. If he gets two signals, he'll add to it. He'll have a bullish and a bearish trade on at the same time in different time frames based on the signals. I don't roll like that. I might have a little bit of that in different time frames, but just going to throw that in. But yeah, I agree. The market is not bearish. And with Waller's comments, that certainly changes things. Okay, it's 9:07, so I got to run. Any more comments, Joel? I respect you. Power will be gone. I don't know about the power being gone thing. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying that. Who knows? Who knows? I don't see that. And
I
if
don't think
I
anyone
would,
knows anything at this point.
right, nobody knows anything, including Trump, including Powell. But
yeah.
but were I a Republican strategist, I might encourage him to bluster all he wants, but to leave it alone, because now I have a scapegoat. If something goes south, it's because that stupid Powell didn't raise rates and he's dumb, whatever it is that he says. And so don't worry, I'm going to come in and save the day anyway, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't see how it's to the political narrative advantage to have him gone. Again, that's putting on my political strategist hat on. I get calls from them all the time. I'm joking. So anyway, yeah, we can take a look at next week a little later on the day. Oh yeah, and Bad Hombre, who's become part of my back end tech support here. If you're having trouble, because we've been messing around with the trading view thing, trying to get it in a manner that some people had no trouble with the old way, some people are. So that's just kind of we're trying to nail that down and nail down some of the admin stuff. Yeah, silver. I hope it does, because I'm long some silver leaps. I hope it does. I got the 35s when they were a bit out of the money. I got the convexity there. Now I got to decide, am I going to roll them? What I'm going to do with them? They're the 26 leaps, so I don't have to play with them today. But yeah, I hope silver goes to the moon. I really hope it does. Okay, I'm going to run to listen to Valsigs. As you guys know, I could talk market all day long, so I'm going to stop now. Everybody on YouTube and Twitter, I'll be back.
Voice chat as well when the bell rings. So if there's any good trade,
right. When the bell rings, I'm in voice chat streaming. So that's just who I am. I'm consistent.
Let's make some money.
Yeah, let's make some money. That's it. That's it. And support each other.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Goodbye,
take care,
everybody.
everybody.